Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Wednesday, October 17th, 2018. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Here is a look at the daily time frame of the ES. You'll notice right here that we have sold off significantly from those highs of the month. We found a fairly strong low here that was serviceable, and that gave us, an indication that we may be headed higher. And we were looking for a move into 28.28 half. We fell just shy of that just so far, reaching a high of 28.24 quarter. And so again, the reason why we wanted to see that 28.28 half is to seal in this new key range from that high, which is this blue line, down to this low, which is that blue line right there, and then also to the midpoint of that range, which is about right there. That's the 28.28 half. We got very close. Now, the reason why I like that to be hit is because it kind of cements this impulse sell-off as a new key range, and these are going to be the most important key levels moving forward. And given the uptrend in this market, typically speaking, if we were to come down here again and retest these lows at some point, a rejection here would be the primary buy opportunity for a push back to the 28.28 half and a shot to see a move higher. If we do break to the upside, we start to have extensions to the upside that could be reached, and based on those extensions right now, an upside break would put you at this target here, which is 31.77 down the road. A downside break would put you somewhere into the 24.79.75s. So again, that's kind of the key range that we could be working off of. But again, we need a couple of more points here. Now, in terms of the daytime frame here, we have definitely seen a major upside move here from yesterday's session. Again, we were looking for signs of a major breakout opportunity, and we thought that the breakout would be to the upside. We got an aggressive trend day up, a nice stop run day. Typically what happens after a day like that is you watch the previous high. Any rejection there could open up a pullback in the early phases of the day, and any pullback, even as deep as yesterday's midpoint, could still be a buying opportunity for a shot at trying this thing a little higher. I would caution that if price gets back to that 28.75, 28.80 zone, if price gets that high, it may begin to see some selling pressure here, because again, that's the essence of where the sell-off really began in the ES here that day. Boom. So to come back to that level might see some selling pressure here. So again, cautiously bullish right now, but in the near term we may see a little bit of weakness here toward the midpoint. That could be a buying opportunity for another move higher over the next few days. So we're going to continue to watch this to see how it develops, but a great breakout yesterday. If you take a look at the NQ, similar type of move, very aggressive breakout. This one did get its midpoint, so we do now have a new key range here. I haven't marked it, but that's the high, that's the low, and the midpoint is right there. I believe that's 73.18s or so. So we have reached the midpoint here. This is very good because now we have ourselves a new key range with very reliable levels to watch on either edge. Given the uptrending market, again, this edge down here is the most important for bulls to defend. Price can get below that edge, but if there's a rejection there, that could easily work price back toward this target, followed by the potential to see a return back toward recent highs. So again, that's kind of the long-term framework. We have extensions outside this range in case we see expansion down the road, and the 100% expansion to the upside eventually would take us to 85.50 here in the NQ to the upside. And if it were to the downside, it would take you down here toward about the 6,300. No, actually the 6086 level. That's the 100% expansion target to the downside. So those are the major targets here that we're going to focus on based off of this range. And overall, again, a great impulse move because of how big it was here, how big that sell-off was. It would not surprise me if that kind of contains price for a little while before we see the next major move. So again, continue to watch this key range. It could give us some great long-term levels. Right now, daytime frame, any rejection of previous highs here leads to a soft pullback here. We can come back as deep as that midpoint, and that could be a short-term buying opportunity for another push a little bit higher. All right, let's take a look now at crude oil. If you look at crude, Again, what we were looking at yesterday were signs that 72s were being rejected. Those 72s have been holding so far, and we really haven't seen that move down that that was building. Instead, after this recent pullback here, you can see a very narrow range that has developed over the last 3 to 4 days. The last 5 days in general are kind of inside right there, and so let's quantify that down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. This day obviously not finished, so this is an incomplete bar down here on the histogram. But as of right now, with this current development, obviously we do have crude oil inventories later on this morning, but it's very narrow right now. 2.25 points over the last 5 days. It averages 4.18. That's 50% of average, and again, that suggests a major breakout could be coming. You see how narrow that is? Anytime you get a narrow range like that, a major breakout could be coming. Now, whenever you see a narrow range, the first breakout could be a false breakout. So if this thing tries to break up first and then rejects here and turns into some sort of tail, that could be a big tell that this thing is going down. Likewise, the same thing. If this thing breaks down first and rejects, we could be headed right back up. So anytime you have a narrow range, be cautious of the first breakout. Okay, let's take a look now at gold futures. Again, gold doing a fairly decent job right now of holding after the rally. It has not given it back up. That is a change of pace right now for gold. What you also notice here is these moving averages. The 8 period is the gold. It's kind of coming up above the 21, the 34, the 55s. That right there starts to suggest that we are having a change of bias in the trend. If you look at the pivot ranges as well, pivot range was lower, pivot range lower, pivot range lower, pivot range lower, pivot range lower, but right now price is way above it, and it's forecasting a higher pivot range for the next month. Again, that is typically a sign of a change of bias for the trend, and we may be headed higher now. So again, this isn't confirmed by any means just yet. This market has been very heavy overall, but we are seeing signs right now that this thing could hold and go. We could still drop down, say into 1210. Any pullback here needs to have a great rejection day in order to really get this thing going to the upside. So again, right now at least it's holding. It's not really pushing higher just yet. Got 4-day range that's very narrow, developing 4-day range. Again, if there's some sort of shakeout leg, that could be the ticket to get this thing higher. Above 1240 opens up 1287, which is composite VPOC. Lastly, let's take a look at Bitcoin here. If you look at Bitcoin, you'll notice again it's sitting down here at these lows. Just an incredible amount of support. An incredible amount of support at 6K. We've talked about it time and time again. And now there's an incredible amount of resistance at 6,700, 6,800. Incredible amount of resistance there. This thing has compressed significantly over time, and now again it appears like it's getting closer to that major move that everyone's wanting. To the upside, maybe not. It's probably going to be to the downside unless some news comes out, right? They're looking for maybe an ETF or something like that, but again, they've continue to decline many ETFs. So we'll see if this thing happens. But either way, above 6,800 could squeeze, and it needs to break above a prior pivot high in order to really get interesting. This has not been able to do that again in nearly a year. It's been lower high after lower high, and now it's sitting on support. It could get ugly to the downside if this thing cannot hold 6,000. So again, just a quick update on Bitcoin right now as it continues to consolidate near these lows. Eventually, we should see a flush of some sort. All right, that is it for now. We'll see how this plays out heading into the rest of the session. Good luck and trade well.